So good morning. I'm Dick Wagner with the Crest Network. And this morning I decided that I wanted to present a webinar on time management. I continually hear so many people that are struggling with the good use of their time. And sorry, we're still going back and forth here. And since everybody's struggling with the good use of their time, in other words, time management, I wanted to just take a little bit of time out of your busy schedules to talk about some of the things that come into play in time management. I'm not going to get down into the weeds about a specific situation or specific people. You got to iron all of that out yourself. But I do want to give you some really key points about the approach and the strategy to good time management. I'm a big believer in planning the day in advance. It's one of the reasons why I ask those that I coach to prepare sometime between Friday and Monday morning, prepare a weekly planning report that lays out who you plan or hope to see each of those days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm also a big believer in, and I use an electronic calendar literally every day and sometimes every minute of every day. With so many people that I'm consulting, it's hard to keep track of who I'm supposed to be talking with at what time on what day. And then I have a lot of other things going on as well. So an electronic calendar is absolutely essential. There are other ways to plan, and that's to use an organizer, a handwritten, they used to call them day planners. That's kind of a thing of the past. I still heard somebody recently tell me that they're just not comfortable with the electronic organizers or electronic calendars and tasks. And I just chuckle at that because, hey, even an old guy like me can use a calendar or a task reminder electronically. Some people create to-do lists. Interestingly enough, not only do I use the electronic calendar, but I also have on my desk a list of to-dos that I check off as I get them done. Generally, those are additional things that pop up, and I write them down and then cross them off as I achieve them. Yes, sure, you can use Post-it notes. You can use day planners, digital alarms, digital reminders. Some people say, well, I don't want to be chained to that kind of time management. I want more freedom. Interesting consideration here. The more you use a calendar, the more you plan and schedule, ironically, the more time you have, the more freedom you have. You aren't running helter-skelter everywhere with your head in a paper bag trying to figure out which way is up. And so planning your day in advance and having reminders on the calendar is an awesome way to be efficient and make good use of your time. There's also been the discussion about how you deal with things like emails. when you come in or you sit down at your desk in the morning, ideally, you should be addressing those emails that are in your inbox at that time, first thing in the morning. And then if you sit at your desk all day long, and most people don't, some owners might, but marketers don't, deal with your emails just before lunch also, like literally when you're ready to go to lunch, or if you prefer, just after lunch. And then most people are back at the office at 4:30 or 4:45, and that's the perfect time to respond to additional emails or additional phone calls or voicemail messages. Very rarely does an email have to be answered instantaneously. When somebody sends you an email, you can address it in the morning or at lunchtime or at the end of the day. And that 2 or 3 hours is plenty of time within reason to respond. And then some of you have heard the expression, eat the frog first. Yeah, it sounds kind of disgusting. It's what my grandson would say, yuck. But you know, eating the frog is doing the unpleasant tasks first. If you handle the first or the worst situations first, it gets them out of the way and done, and it frees you up. It's not nagging you. It's not bugging you. It's not frustrating you or giving you anxiety over the next several hours or longer, knowing that you have to deal with eating that frog. When you prioritize by handling the worst first, your rest of your day, the rest of your time at your office goes so much smoother. And all of a sudden, those non-urgent things that keep popping up, they're a snap. They're easy. They're no problem at all to handle because you got rid of the miserable stuff first. When I sit down at my desk first thing in the morning, sometimes 7 a.m., I look at my emails and I try to deal with the ones that require the most effort, the most brain power, or the most difficult right away, quick. And then I can prioritize the rest of my day or my response to my emails. Sometimes I have text messages setting on my phone. Like some people, or unlike some people, I don't take my phone and plug it in beside my bed. I won't do it. It's a challenge to get a good night's sleep, folks. And you shouldn't be putting the phone under your pillow unless you're on a 24-hour response call for your company. And then I said it, take appropriate breaks. It's kind of like when you take appropriate breaks throughout the day, it helps with your productivity. It improves your productivity because when you take appropriate breaks, it lets you get refreshed, re-energized. You can take a break by getting a cup of coffee. I do that when my head's fried from building a PowerPoint presentation or writing a blog article, and I am writing a blog article of almost every day, sometimes more than one a day. I go get a cup of coffee. And I get it myself, yes, for those of you that are wondering. Or you go for a short walk. I've been known to walk out to the mailbox when I need to clear my head for a second. or I try to do some other more pleasant task. You have to have breaks. You deserve those breaks if you have been cranking out great productivity. This is a tough one. If I'm talking to owners and I'm encouraging marketers to tell their owners, no, I can't do that. It's consuming too much of my time. I was hired to be a marketer. Then you have to do that in a far more tactful and polite and respectful way. But so many times an owner will see you sitting at your desk and think, well, I can toss this little project on them because they're not out on the road. But I'm going to share with you the reality that when you are not being productive, you're spending or you're wasting a lot of your owner's time. If a marketer that's been on the job for at least 1 year isn't producing $1 million a year in revenue, they're missing the boat big time. If you do the math and you divide roughly 2,000 hours a year, that's your 40 hours a week work week with 2 weeks vacation. If you divide that 2,000 hours into $1 million, that means that every single hour that you are on the clock, you should be generating $500 for your boss, for the company you work for. $500 an hour is what you should be generating in revenue. If you're sitting at your desk doing some administrative or mundane position at the rate of $500 an hour, that's a horrible waste of your time. And your employer should not allow that. You need to be assertive, but you're not a machine. You need to delegate where that is appropriate. And when you appropriately delegate, when you're assertive at the right time, when you know your time constraints, it will dramatically reduce your work and anxiety. For all of you that I coach on a weekly basis, those of you that are on here anyway, you know that I am now, I've elevated my comfort zone up to being comfortable being on camera, and I'm doing live video Zoom calls. Yes, there was a lot of anxiety when I first started that. When I was doing live video messaging, sending live video messages out, there was a lot of anxiety. And part of that was because I wasn't comfortable seeing myself on camera. I wasn't comfortable with that whole technological part of the world, but I got past it. I swallowed my discomfort. I stepped out of my comfort zone and I did it. And I know that many of you are sharing with me on a regular basis how you're doing video messages, how you're doing video Zoom calls. Some of you are aware that some of our marketers are actually doing live Zoom calls interviewing a plumber or an insurance agent or even an end user homeowner. Folks, sometimes the appropriate thing to do is to say, no, I can't be administrator for this because I need to be generating $500 an hour out on the road calling on plumbers or insurance agents or whatever. Many of you know, but I'll bet most of you did not know, that on a single daily basis, from the time you get up until the time you lay your head on the pillow at night, you are subject to, I am subject to, more than 5,000 commercials or advertisements or promos every single day. It's everything from a pop-up or something that pops up on your email or on your website that you're going to, advertisements on your weather app on your phone. It just goes on and on and on. The electronic clutter, notifications, pop-ups, messages, the emails you get, the phone calls that come into you, your exposure on all of the different social media platforms. I'm on 5 different Facebook or 6 different Facebook pages, not counting my own personal page. I'm on 4 different Twitter accounts. I am on Pinterest. I am on LinkedIn. If you start, and most of you are on a similar situation, if you start to think about how many different exposures you're getting in a day, it really literally is 5,000. And then if you get in your car and drive someplace and you see the billboard, you hear the commercials on the radio, folks, it's never ending. So the biggest challenge, and this is a challenge for me, just like it would be for you, the challenge is to focus on the project at hand and have that project or those projects prioritized, and then block out the other distractions. They pop up, ignore them immediately. They pop up, delete them immediately. That's really crucial, because if you aren't focusing, you're wobbling all over the place. And that isn't valuable or useful or helpful for you. And it's certainly not helpful for your employer. I'm also a big believer in setting daily goals and weekly goals. Most of mine are relatively simple in the sense that I create a list of the things that I need to achieve on a certain day. But Bill Giannone and I also create a list of goals that we need to achieve this week and next week. And we have timetables for notifying somebody about like the RMS class or the commercial marketing program that we're getting ready to offer. And we do set those goals with calendar dates, and we work on achieving those. But it goes even deeper than that. Every single person on this call that's listening, there's about a dozen of you, everybody should be identifying how many phone calls you are going to make or attempt to make during a specific day. Today is Tuesday. So you should have a sheet on your desk that says, and maybe even carrying it with you to your car, how many phone calls to prospects and clients you're going to make that day. I can tell you that you need to make a minimum of 5 phone calls that you are able to connect with and talk to somebody. I can tell you right now that means you're probably going to need to dial 10 times. You also should have a specific number of how many emails you're going to send. And I don't mean an email blast where we send out a crest wave newsletter to 1,800 people. I'm not talking about that kind of email. I'm talking about you should be sending out emails one at a time to specific people that are very personalized. And you ought to be sending out 10 of those emails every single day, Monday through Friday. You should know, your boss should know, that you should be doing a certain number of physical visits. Even in cities or areas where there's a strong social distancing mask mandate, you should still, and you can still, be doing a number of visits. If you're doing a certain number of phone calls, a certain number of emails in the wide open territories, like here in Florida, Ohio has opened up quite a bit now. Some of the Midwestern states far better. Indiana, kids can go to school in person now. Same here in Florida. You should be doing a minimum of 10 to 12 visits, and even and 15 visits if it's a fairly open state or county. If you have a more restrictive community because of the pandemic, you should still be doing a minimum of 10 visits a day, 10 face-to-face interactions, delivering, having a legitimate business reason to go there, an LBR, including taking a Maven article. You should be setting a certain number of appointments. Those can be done by the phone calls. You can try emails, not as effective unless you really perfect what you say and your subject line. But you should be calling and asking to set an appointment. Hi, Bob, I'd like to stop in and see you today or next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Based on your schedule right now, will that work for you? Great. I'll send you a calendar appointment as a reminder. Oh, by the way, I'm not a big believer in taking more than 30 minutes for lunch. As most of you know, I sit at my desk 8 hours a day. But I do get up and I have lunch. It's 30 minutes, period. Not longer. Every one of you out on the road shouldn't be spending more than 30 minutes. Most of you are either carrying your lunch with you or you're driving through McDonald's or Hungry Howie's. And when you're there in person or on a phone call, when you're doing your in-person visits or you're talking to a live person, please ask for a referral or an introduction or ask for a lead, a job. Hey, anything on your desk right now that I can help you with? That's being aggressive but not obnoxious. Multitasking is not effective. I can tell you absolutely that my wife will tell you, she'll tell me all the time, she is a great multitasker. Well, I'm not going to argue with that because I know better. But if you look at the surveys and the studies done by higher education colleges and universities, Princeton, Harvard, places like that, they've done some in-depth studies on multitasking, and they have found that we cannot effectively multitask. Now, can we drive a car and chew gum at the same time? Can we drive a car, chew gum, and adjust the radio at the same time? Yes, yes, and yes. But You can't be sending an email effectively and logically and appropriately while you're talking on the phone to a client. One or the other is going to fail miserably. You're going to get distracted on your phone call while you're concentrating on the email, or you're going to listen totally to what the person on the phone call is saying, and you're going to send off an email with a whole bunch of oops and boo-boos, misspellings, things like that. It does not work. Our brain is not designed to simultaneously handle multiple different actions in general. We can't filter them effectively. On top of that, we don't know what's relevant because it all starts to clutter and jumble together. And even most importantly, after all of that, is that when we're trying to multitask, we fail to do the most important task, and our overall quality plummets to the bottom. It drops fast. Can you imagine multitasking, juggling knives? I have seen jugglers juggle 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 crazy items at one time. But I can tell you they are 100% focused. They see nothing else. They hear nothing else. They are 100% focused on the juggling and where those knives are and how quickly they're throwing them in the air. Even in juggling, where there's multiple items being juggled, and you've probably seen on TV the juggler that's juggling 3 chainsaws at the same time. Believe me, there's total concentration on that one single thing. We should be using all of the professional tools that are available to us. There is no excuse in today's world to not have good to-do lists. You should be utilizing electronic reminders, chimes and alarms and buzzing that pop up on your phone, on your computer. You should be using Post-it notes where appropriate. I really, really hope that every single person here is using an effective customer relations management software that they're actually using, taking advantage of the reminders, taking advantage of the tasks that need to be done on certain days. Most CRMs today have when you first open it, they have some sort of a quick review so that you can at a glance see your on the desktop what there is to do, and you can sometimes click down through and do those very quickly, kind of like a dashboard. You should be using Zoom or Skype and Slack and GoToMeeting. Zoom and GoToMeeting are very similar platforms. You can use WhatsApp, which has a great video process. I use WhatsApp for a couple of my foster children that I deal with in foster care for the Guardian Ad Litem program. If you truly want to change your habits, download an app called Habitica. And it might be said a variety of different ways, but Habitica.com, it's exactly what it says. It's a free habit building and productivity app that treats your real life like a game. It's pretty cool. I haven't downloaded it yet, but I went in and studied it, learned about it. It's got rave reviews. If you have a horrible habit or 2 or 3 or 10 like I do, I'm told that Habitica is a great app to help break you of those bad habits and get you into good habits by treating your real life as a fun game. You can achieve your goals and you can get healthy, you can be hardworking and effective, and even happier. And I don't get any commission on Habitica, so go in and check it out for yourself. Take breaks and chill, folks. Get a Starbucks. Yes, while you're out on the road. There's nothing wrong when your head is fried. You just had 3 or 4 intense face-to-face meetings. Swing into Starbucks, or if you're on the East Coast, swing into Dunkin' Donut. Don't eat the donut, just drink the coffee. Or go to the gun range and shoot somebody. Go to the gun range and shoot. Take 30 minutes. Go in and shoot your concealed carry weapon. Get that all out of your system. Going to the gun range and shooting, target practice, it's good for you. You might have to work an extra half an hour that day to make up for that time, but it's just another avenue. Pull over and listen to a playlist, not the one that's 2 hours long, but your short playlist. Carry a book with you and read 1 chapter in the book, or 5 pages if it's a really long chapters. Find a way to take a break, to chill and clear your mind. When you do that, it helps you get ready for the next challenge. And when you tackle the next challenge, you are highly effective. You are succeeding. Say it right to save time. This is one of my pet peeves. I'm frustrated by it often. I am frustrated by people that don't know how to say it succinctly. They don't know how to use brevity. If you're one of those people that blah, 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 wander, talk, and can't say I'm thirsty in 2 words, and they have to say, boy, it's been really hot out today, and I'm sure wish I could find someplace where I could get bottled water that was really cold. Oh my gosh. You just said 20 words, and all you have to say is I'm thirsty. You know, for those of you that are old enough, you will remember Sergeant Joe Friday that said just the facts, ma'am. Because the lady, when he was interviewing her for a crime or about a crime, she would go on and on and on and add in stuff that didn't matter, was totally irrelevant. 25 years ago, I didn't know how to use brevity. I didn't understand the importance of keeping it short and simple and succinct. Get good at it. Learn it. Study it. One of the best ways for you to learn how to say things short and sweet is to write out a paragraph. Write something out to somebody. I don't even care if you do it in an email. And, you know, tell them what you want to tell them, a story, something that happened. But don't send it. Come back to it an hour later or the next day and count how many words it has. And if it has 50 words, rewrite it so that it only has 30 words, but still has the same punch. And then don't send it. Hold off until the next day, and then go back and rewrite it again and take it from 30 words down to 15. And try to have the same level of punch with the same critical information. You might think that's not possible. I can assure you that it is. I can write a blog article with 700 words and go back the next day and rewrite it and take it down to 475 words. And I have not lost any of the punch or the value of the article. Why do I do that? Because it takes less time to read when I'm putting it up there on a blog site. And if I can say it in 400 plus words, that's a whole lot better for the reader than to have to read 700 words. Say it so they understand it, but practice brevity. And then the great procrastination. I'll do it later. I'll do it later. I hear that you all hear that from your kids or your grandkids. I hear it from my grandkids all the time. I'll do it later. I'll do it when I come in. I'll do it when I go back outside. I'll do it after dinner. I'll do it later. Why do we say that? Because we don't see the value in doing it now. We're often bored, and so we would rather stay in that bored state than to get up and go do it. Sometimes we don't see it as fun, and so we choose to postpone the difficult. That's going back to one of my first slides here where I said, eat the frog. Eating the frog is difficult. So handle it and get it done. And even though you don't necessarily see it as a fun activity, when you postpone or procrastinate, that negative action hurts your productivity. Sometimes we choose to do it later because of the fear of failure. Sometimes we procrastinate. Well, let me give you the perfect example. We don't pick up the phone and call a client or a prospect. We procrastinate. We find 25 reasons why we have something else more important to do. We procrastinate. The reason is simple. We have the fear of rejection. I'll do it later creates a negative response, and it's very difficult to recover or overcome that. The fact is, distractions can hurt you really bad. Distractions slow you down. It creates what some people call half work. Yeah, you might be putting in 8 hours in the day, but you're only doing the work of 4 hours. If that's the case, if you have those distractions, change your environment. I talk to people in Zoom a lot now, and many times they're conducting that. We're doing that Zoom while they're sitting in an office with people walking back and forth past their desk. The camera is seeing them, and they're turning and glancing and aware that somebody just walked by. But on top of that, so can I see them. Close your office door. Turn off your cell phone. Work from home if you need to. And that's with an asterisk with your boss's permission. Use a checklist. Some people are fanatics about having a checklist. Be careful that your checklist doesn't have so many absurd things on it that one of the things on the checklist says, blow your nose when your nose is running. Sometimes the checklist can go too far. And then complete one task completely before you go on to the next task. When you achieve those 6 key points that I have there on the screen, you will eliminate the half work. It'll suddenly become far more productive. Holding yourself accountable. You know, we all have to hold ourselves accountable, but on top of that, our boss, our owner, me acting in the role of your sales manager, coaching you, we have to hold you accountable. The reason that accountability is so important is that if you're not holding yourself accountable and if your bosses aren't holding you accountable, then there is a lot of slop time. There's a lot of wasted time. Be sure that you allow enough time for each of those responsibilities or duties, and then set deadlines for them. Too many times over the years, I've had to kick people in the rear end because they, for some reason, just didn't relish going out on the road, calling on property or clients. And so they sat at their desk very inefficiently, doing quote unquote admin type things and doing them poorly because that was a way for them to drag their feet. When you allow plenty of time, you don't back down from what your responsibilities are, and you know your strengths and can improve upon your weaknesses and be totally honest with yourself, you can and will hold yourself accountable. And last but not least, the seconds, the minutes, and the hours come into play. You need to know what it takes to achieve specific things. You need to know how much time it takes to do a specific project. If you're spending more than 1 hour in the morning at your desk doing admin work, you're spending, and if you're spending more than that, you're spending too much time. You're worth $500 an hour in revenue generation. To sit at your desk for more than 1 hour means you're using more than $500 of valuable time that you ought to be out in the marketplace. The seconds, the minutes, the hours, and even some projects will take days or weeks, but you need to know what the length of time is that it takes for each of those projects that you need to do each day or each week. You need to measure those steps, track those actions, and see what's involved. Look for ways to shorten the steps. Always be willing to allow for mistakes because mistakes can and will be made. And when mistakes are made, now you're using extra time to fix those mistakes. So build that in. Allow for urgent interruptions. Guess what? We're in the disaster recovery business. There are always going to be urgent interruptions, even if it's as simple as a phone call where the lady's saying, OMG, my basement is flooded. It can be all kinds of urgent interruptions. You need to prepare for them and you need to allow for them. Sometimes, often, it isn't always how fast you can get it done. Sometimes it's how productive or how effective you are. For the marketer that says, I'm going to call on 20 insurance agents today. Well, that's really nice. That sounds really good. But unless all of those insurance agents are all in the same zip code, that's probably not going to happen. If you can visit that many, you're doing what I say is stop, drop, and roll. You're wasting valuable relationship marketing. You're not going there with a legitimate business reason to have an interaction with that client. You're just rolling in, dropping off a brochure or something, and rolling on to the next one as fast as you can. It isn't how fast you can see these people. Folks, I'm Dick Wagner. Thank you so much for hearing me out on time management. I'll talk to you next time. This website or this webinar will be on our website. Thanks. Bye-bye.